We're here tonight to celebrate the third birthday of a great game. The extraordinary range of achievements and additions spanned by Diablo and Reaper of Souls' brief history, from a rocky start to the stellar launch of the expansion, the amazing game that it has become today. This is a living example of the dedication that the development team has brought to the franchise and how much they are devoted to bringing us the best experience they can for an action RPG. If I may put it into more familiar terms, it's a game that started off with Error 37s, moved on to Inferno is Impossible, then continued with new life when they shut down the Real Money Auction House, reaches the forefront with Reaper of Souls. Diablo 3? I was a fan of yours well before you ever launched. All the way back to 2008 when you were announced in Paris. I followed your development through the years. I even got to play some of the demos at various BlizzCons. Back in those days, the community regarded you as the greatest thing since sliced bread, the successor to the crown that was Diablo 2. Sure, after launch you fell on some hard times, Diablo, but that didn't stop you. At the time when the internet was calling the game and the team itself a hack and pronouncing the series dead, you continued on. For being a dead game, you sure showed a lot of tenacity. Nephilim Valor, Monster Power, Hellfire Rings, crafting patterns that mattered, good legendaries, all of that leading up to your first expansion, Reaper of Souls. All the disappointment and disapproval was reversed. The team seemed to find their self-confidence back through calm and skillful exercise of creativity, and by strengthening your resolve to delivering the Diablo game that you have created. I have at times criticized you, Diablo, and your development team, but know that I have done it with the hopes that you'd be better for it. Through the critique of the community and the dedication of the developers, we have a game that sits before us today. New items, new challenges, new builds, legendary gems glistening in our gear, multitude of sets draping our characters. To the game and to the development team that has made this possible, Diablo 3, happy birthday.
Wow. That was quite the speech.
Yeah?
And I, of course, am lost. So guide me. Lead me to the reference.
I would be surprised if anyone really knew where this one was from, but it's actually taken from Margaret Thatcher's speech to Ronald Reagan for his 80th birthday.
Huh. Where in the world did you find that?
Like I said, I was going through and searching around for the Reaper of Souls anniversary, and I was just searching for birthday speeches, and I came across this, and it was just like, that's only like half the speech.
Wow.
It goes on. I had to cut it off at some point. I had to cut it off, but it was just like, I slipped up a few times there, and so I kind of sad about that I couldn't get through it without stuttering, but yeah,
no,
it was a great speech.
That was
definitely
good.
something to impress somebody at a birthday if you ever want to.
Just bust that out.
Yep.
No, I liked it. I liked. If you wouldn't have told the source, I would have just thought you made it all up, and it flowed very beautifully. So
Let's go with that.
there it is.
I like it better. But yeah, of course, for those of you live, and probably for those listening as soon as it hits iTunes, it is not yet Diablo 3's anniversary. That's actually a couple days away. That'll be Friday the 15th.
That's right.
Yep, but definitely it is a special occasion. This is our episode, before the event, so we wanted to go through and, wish Diablo 3 a happy third birthday.
Indeed, a happy third birthday, as Nineball so aptly put it in his intro. This is episode 50. Titled it, 3 Years of Diablo 3 Soon. And I would have put the little TM in there too if I could, but I didn't know if my Twitch chat subject line thing would be able to handle such craziness.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that it can.
All right.
The multitude of titles that I've seen, Twitch streamers name their chats.
Actually, that's true.
Their stream openings.
With like all the weird like ASCII things and whatnot. And,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next time.
Always next time.
Yes. So this
Gadget.
is 50 episodes, by the way, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah, halfway to 100.
Halfway. Nice round number. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've done a lot of celebrating of the show recently, with the 1 year anniversary. There's been a lot of anniversaries,
Mm-hmm.
all hitting right around the same time, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I think for celebrations, we can lay off the 50. We'll get there when we do like 75. Let's set like silver. You guys can send us like spoons or something, or I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But let's celebrate instead with our week in gaming, because I think you have some stories for us.
Yes, I actually have quite a bit to celebrate. RNG has smiled upon me. Um, yeah, so I only had a limited amount of time to play this past week, but it felt like every second I put it into the game was worth it. Of course, from a couple episodes, you all know that I lost my gear on my Demon Hunter, and then all the my backup gear on the second Demon Hunter. And so I was going around and playing with the Nats build, which I have a lot of fun. It gave me carpal tunnel, but I had a lot of fun playing it because it's just so different.
Hmm.
I know you have some opinions on this one,
Oh yes.
uh, but it's my backup gear, and I had no materials to re-roll or do anything. So it was Nats really needs good gear to be effective. It's not a build that you can really run on mediocre gear. So it's been kind of a struggle farming back up, and I was trying to get the Unhallowed set completed again because that one's going to be perfect for just going and blasting back up to like Greater Rift 40 and being able to farm up better pieces and such.
Most certainly.
Yeah, so I finally recompleted a full Unhallowed set. Need to work on the pieces. It still has definitely, I think, like my helm has life per hit, crit, and dexterity on it, or something like that. It's don't look at my character profile. It is a work in progress. But so I finally recompleted the Unhallowed Essence. Thanks to Scanline, a member of the clan, a longtime listener of the show, I managed to get my focus and restraint ring set back. I found restraint. He found focus. We were playing together. He traded that.
Seems
to me.
appropriate.
Yeah, yeah. So that was nice. And then I found a Crider shot as well to go and kind of push that build a little bit more forward with Elemental Arrows. That's going to be fun going and trying that out. Not like the ancient one, I'm sure that you'll be mentioning in your weekend gaming, but it was a nice small victory for me. And also in that limited playtime, I found 3 Ronald McDonald's just lying around on the ground. So I'm
Hey.
good. I'm set. I think I have 6 now sitting in my stash.
Some
In addition to all the ones that I've used, I think I have found 12 now during the season.
Holy moly, you're outpacing me quite a bit, whereas usually it's the other way around. Although,
Especially last season.
last
Yeah.
season,
I
for
think
sure.
I still have some catching up to do.
Season 1, though, you originally got out the gate pretty quickly, too, with Ronald McDonald's.
I found a lot more so far than I ever did in season 1. I found them. I think I found like one like every 75 levels during season 1 because I finished off at around Paragon 300, and I think I found 3 or 4. I was thinking it was 4 in total.
The math works.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's quite the spout of good luck.
definitely.
So what's next? You're just gonna refine the UE pieces, get the discipline where you need to, push.
Yeah, pretty much. Go through, push, refine the Nat set, and see how high I can leverage that. Now that I actually have a decent set of gear together, I can go and start running Greater Rifts again to get my gems releveled.
Nice.
That's one of the other huge things of losing all those gems.
Mm-hmm. The levels, man. It's tough.
Yeah.
We'll have to get some games together because I'm always looking to level gems and backup gems. I have like backups to backups now because I'm so worried about losing them at
Yeah.
this point.
It really is the hardest part about dying.
Yeah.
You always have backup gear, so the losing the gear isn't that bad, but the gems, man, so many hours.
Mm-hmm. Especially because when you think about it too, if you have the backup gear, it's fine, but like it's not going to give you that immediate jump back in and play feeling that the backup gear is supposed to, because the gems are so important in terms of providing what they provide. If it's the utility of an ice blink or the DPS of a Bane of the Trapped or whatever. Until you get to level 25 with most of them, really, you're not fully there yet. So
Yeah. If we have time, I have, I guess, one other thing to mention, non-Diablo related.
yes, please.
The Warhammer 40k things. I've not played my finals match yet because the other side of the bracket hasn't been finalized. On Friday, they played the other semi, and they went on for a little over 6 hours to a draw.
What?
Yeah. Yeah,
How does
they
that
started late. They did. This is like one of those ones. Is they didn't even start until around 4 o'clock. So we were all sitting at the hobby shop until 10 when the store is supposed to close at 7. But we, it just kind of like Joe locked up shop, and we just kind of sat there and played for a little bit longer because it's just like we got to have a conclusion to this.
Right.
We have to find out what's going on. So unfortunately, that didn't continue. So they're going to do a much lower point game to just kind of be a tiebreaker. Hopefully this Friday, and then we'll play, I think, Saturday. For the finals, or another week after that for the finals.
Oh man, it's like you're dragging this thing out like a DBZ series.
It really, really is. I do hope that it isn't this Saturday because I have planned Saturday to go and see the new Mad Max movie.
Ah, right on.
Which I'm sure I will have to explain to you what Mad Max is.
Yep.
Okay.
At some point. Oh boy.
At BlizzCon, I just need to take you to the movies. I don't even care what is going to be playing at the time. We just need to go to the movies.
Just to have some frame of reference to like some kind of pop culture.
Show you what a movie theater is.
So people get popcorn here.
Yes, people do.
Oh boy. Someday I'll get back out there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. These days, I've been playing some Diablo as well, not going to the movies. It is nice and sunny outside, so I have been venturing at least within like the 10-foot parameter around my apartment, which is cool. But in all seriousness, been enjoying a little bit of balance in life in terms of getting out for some runs. Work, of course, is work, and then playing some Diablo when I can. And this past week, I did a lot in terms of just pushing my characters forward. I had, like, Nineball mentioned, we lost some characters in the last few weeks, so I lost my Barb as well. And built it all back up for the most part. Got back to farming pretty efficiently at least, and started to get the Greater Rift set together. And so at some point I stopped being a baby about it and decided to try my luck in the higher GRs for hardcore anyways. Went through and did 47, and then 48, and then 49. So gotta push for that 50, which is kind of what my goal is for my characters long term this season. I want to get a Barb, a DH, and a Crusader up to clears of Greater Rift 50. So,
oh, very nice, very nice.
Oh man, and it's been
the one that's going to be heart stopping will probably be the Demon Hunter.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of like Twitch play and just perfect positioning. I'm looking forward to though. Like I guess that's the next part of my story is I've been falling in love with the Demon Hunter. The clears in T6 are just so quick with Unhallowed because one multi-shot is just one-shotting everything.
Screen dead.
Yeah. Like it's funny because I'm trying to read the chat, not even for the purposes of reading the chat. I love chat, by the way. I love all you guys in the clan. I do read what you type, I promise. But I'm mostly reading it to see when I engage and then kill elites, because otherwise I just walk around and there's like a pile of stuff and I'm like, I wonder if that was a barrel or elites or I don't know. But it's nuts, man. I love the distance and the spread of it all, and I don't know. To me, to those of you who've been listening to podcasts, you'll notice that I appeared on Ink Gamers earlier this week and argued with Flux vehemently, however you say that word. I'm so angry I can't even think of how to say words. About the prospects and the awesomeness of the Unhallowed Essence set, and he was very much into the Nats, and you seem to be towing the middle ground here.
It has its purpose, but the Unhallowed Essence really isn't anything different from Marauders. So it's been something that I've been playing for, almost a year now.
Yeah, and that was mostly part of his reasoning too. So I get that. And I know I haven't been playing as much DH nearly as the both of you. So maybe to me it feels a little more fresh, different. Especially coming from other class. Like for me the DH is class relief, so it's not Crusader, it's not Barb, so it feels different.
Yeah, I can definitely feel you on that, coming from playing a Witch Doctor to going back to playing the Demon Hunter. It was just refreshing being back in my comfort zone.
Right on. But yeah, so was doing, leading into what you teased a little bit before, was doing some group play on Sunday, I believe. It was awesome because a lot of people that have been kind of away from the game came back. So Jeff, 3 days, JPT, was back, and Mikey was hanging out too, and Chris, Lieutenant Lunatic, was also hanging out. We're all in raid call, and so like, hey, everyone's here. Let's put a group together. So we're doing some greater rifts, and I remember, I think it was 1 or 2 rifts before, we were talking about which characters and what comps and stuff, and Jeff was using his support wizard. So I was like, oh, it's support wizard, I might as well roll the DH. And everyone's like, you're on your DH? And I'm like, well, this is the only way I'm going to get ancient weapons, because I'm not planning on gambling them. So, you know, it's just my chance at maybe, you know, play a few rifts with her and see what I can get. And the next rift, Crider Shot drops, and I'm like, oh man, Crider Shot. And Mikey's like, I swear to God, if you get an ancient Crider Shot, I quit this game. And we go through the rift, we keep going, and the drops came at the end, so we get it, and then go back to town, and I'm like milling around, I'm kind of like dragging it out a little bit, and I go in ID, and I disenchant every other legendary first, and I finally hover over it. I'm like, it's ancient, and just walk out, and just go outside and leave. Couldn't believe it, man. And Mikey did decide that he was going to quit the game, so he's surrendering his account, his characters. Anybody who wants a decently geared barb, go ahead and just hit Mikey up. He'll hand it over to you.
He is swearing off the game. He's going to be going back to his one true love, Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
Is that an actual game?
I have no idea.
It sounded reasonable enough. I figure, you know, with all the phone stuff we got going on these days. Hello Kitty.
Where is he? I see him, and he is a viewer in chat, but I've not seen him type anything yet.
It must be the salt that's preventing him from moving his hands.
But
yeah, that was an awesome moment, and it's got me trying to now gear for the variation in the Unhallowed Essence using like meticulous bolts and all that stuff. And I actually want to talk to you a little bit about it too, maybe as the after show experience or something. Just the different playstyles now available.
Sweet.
Yeah, so good stuff all around, man. It looks like our RNG is taking turns for the better.
Definitely.
Across the board. No deaths, so that's another week, you know, staying alive.
We need to do a sign, you know, what is it, 23 days since last death? You know?
It's like hanging up in the back somewhere.
Yeah, the stream has been 23 days free of death.
Yes, absolutely. I like it. I'll work on that for the next episode. Excellent. All right, so should we jump into some news items here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Scant, but there are a few.
Just a couple.
What should we lead off with first? What do you like?
Let's just go with something that is like not relevant to conversation whatsoever.
I like it.
Okay, Diablo 2 ladder resetting on May 26th. Even though this is, of course, you know, we're Diablo 3 podcast, but, you know, we do cover all things Diablo. And for those that don't know, the Diablo 2 servers are, in fact, still running.
They are.
Yeah, so...
Powered by one hamster.
One hamster. That is about equivalent, because it's a single team that manages all the classic games. So I have no idea how big the team is. I imagine it's probably small, but they handle the patching and the maintenance and the schedules for Warcraft 3, Diablo 2, the original StarCraft, you know, Brood War, Diablo 1. I imagine does Battle.net still support Warcraft 2? I have no idea.
That is something I have never even been able to I don't even think I've played Warcraft 2, to be perfectly honest with you.
Like Diablo, I played Warcraft 2 on the PlayStation.
That was a PlayStation game?
It was, in fact.
Wow.
Yeah.
Today I learned, folks.
Today you learned. That was the one. It was that game that made me learn that you could actually link multiple PlayStations together to do multiplayer.
That's right.
You could get the. They called it iLink, but it's just a FireWire cable that you would connect two consoles to each other to play multiplayer. It was fun.
Crazy story.
Yep.
Well, there you have it, folks. All sorts of knowledge bombs right there. Linking up PlayStations, Warcraft 2 on the PS. I was going to say, like, I was waiting. There needs to be, like, another syllable normally. PS2, 3, 4. Just PS.
Just PS. PSX.
Yeah, PSX, that's right. And, of course, the Diablo 2 ladder with its reset on May 26th. And we have been discussing some hype for possibly another stream like we did in the past. I'm still hammering out the details, but tune in probably next week for the full story on that one.
Yep. We'd like to go through and do another D2 stream, and we definitely will invite some people from the chat to come and join us. The wonders of 8-player games.
That's right.
So we could definitely go through and pull some people, to go through and follow us. Probably be sometime. It won't be the day the ladder reset goes live. May 26th is a Tuesday. Probably look for something, either that Friday or the weekend.
You got it. Should be a fun time. And if we have more interest than we have room in groups, then maybe we'll organize putting together a second group, and then we can all kind of track our progress as we do the stream. Should be fun.
The race to Andariel.
That's right. Who can get there first? I like it. So yeah, we did notice and mention that there is an anniversary coming up for this game. Diablo 3. Not 2, although I'm sure it has anniversaries coming up at some point.
I think January.
January is when it came out?
So that will be a little bit until that anniversary comes back around.
All right. Well, while we wait for that, we do have bonuses and cool things happening for the current anniversary, the original base game Diablo 3. And one of those things is a contest. So you can actually, if you're so lucky, win 1 out of 10 of these treasure goblin banks that we were talking about on the last show. When you put stuff inside of them, mostly coins, it makes a sound. And there are 6 different sounds. There's actually a video that came with this little preview, so it's pretty cool. You should definitely check it out. But yeah, you just simply enter I think it's your name and your email, like it's a very info light entry, and that's it. That's all you do.
Oh yeah, their previous entries normally you would share it on Twitter or share it on Facebook in order to get more entries. This one really is just fill in your name and your email address, and that's it. You're done.
Good to go. And as part of it too, even if you don't win, I believe each person that enters is getting a free global shipping code.
Yeah, so that way you could get free shipping on your next order.
There you go. And I don't know if you can combine that or not, but don't forget that we do have the BlizzPro code as well. So if you just type BLIZZPRO on checkout, you get a 10% discount off of your stuff, which is pretty darn cool.
Which, unfortunately, cannot be combined with our next news item, which is that in the Blizzard store, they're having a sale of up to 33% off select merchandise for the Diablo franchise. So that way you can save off of things like the Treasure Goblin plush, like the little stuffed animal, the Sword of Justice prop replica, which you can see sitting in the background there on Leviathan's camera. And then also you can save off of the Polystone chest set, which is one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen. It's just so much money. I cannot afford it at the moment. But
it's a pretty penny, but it is a pretty penny.
Yeah, that it is. Do you have an image of that you could throw up there?
I can definitely see if I can navigate my way there.
Yeah.
And so this sale is starting this Friday.
Yep, it starts this Friday.
And it goes for a week, correct?
Yes, it is the 15th to the 22nd. So it is a Friday to Friday sale.
So yeah, I've got it on screen here. For those of you, of course, just listening, you can hear that it's $300. So yeah, like we were saying, quite a pretty penny. But the pieces are just absolutely beautiful. It is, as it's labeled here, a premium Diablo-inspired chess set. Comes in a beautiful box and everything like that. So
yeah, and all the chess pieces are sculpted after the Lords of Hell, the Angiras Council. It is a thing of beauty. My only disappointment, other than it being $300, is it doesn't come with a board.
That's just a bummer.
It is just the pieces. Yeah, so you will in fact have to have a chessboard if you want to use this as anything other than a collector's showpiece.
Although, so there's 2 ways to take that. It could be a bummer, or it could be the opportunity to design your own creative heaven versus hell chessboard. I mean, similar to that battleground or whatever you call your maps and heroes that was showed off. I'm sorry, I don't know what the terminology is.
You're close enough.
Okay.
I think, battleground. I think that's one of them. Maps, whatever.
Call it a map. It's a map.
We'll call it a map. We'll call it a map. But also, speaking, well, no, we could save that one for later.
Ooh, pregnant
We
pause.
we can save that one for later. Let's continue to talk about the anniversary.
All right, then. So yeah, we got this sale again, 33% off of stuff Diablo related in the Gear store, which was just newly relaunched. And of course, we talked about the Treasure Goblin Bank. And if you don't win one, you can of course buy one, and that one's $29.99 over there. But yeah, anniversary stuff going down.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't know if there's going to be any in-game celebration. We have both of these great out-of-game celebrations, but what about in-game?
Yep, community buff. Ken has, please.
I'd like one. I was throwing out some things on Twitter yesterday from the Westmarch Workshop account. That's the WM Workshop, by the way, if you guys want to add it and interact with it and whatnot. It's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Manned by both myself and Nineball. And I was just asking, like, if you could design one of your own community buffs, since we haven't heard one yet, what would it be? And I got some interesting answers. People were saying crazy things like bring back invulnerable minions. Like, why? How's that a buff? I don't want that. That is not a buff.
It's nostalgic.
Yes,
yeah.
That's one way to describe it. Mm-hmm. People were saying like bring back Crazy Pants Inferno mode. Again, these are not buffs. I don't know, but again, like I think one thing I did throw out too, I was like, man, it would be really cool if you could unpatch Diablo actually and just go back to some of those tougher times that we had in the past when all the features weren't quite there, or just when the difficulty was honestly a little bit ramped up with the crazy wall and gear checks of Inferno.
Yeah, I do wonder at what point in the Greater Rifts is it Inferno again? You know?
That's actually an interesting question.
Yeah, like I'd love to be able to take, bring back like that. I'm sure they have all the numbers and the metrics there still of how difficult it was. If they could go and turn that on, maybe for that would actually be cool as like an anniversary event. The enemies have a chance at dropping an Inferno keystone, and you take that over to the Nephilim monument. You put that in, and it unlocks like an Inferno level, so that way you can go to Act 3 Inferno.
That we know so well. That would be interesting. I wonder too, because I'm sure you could not reverse engineer, but just look at what the numbers were, because I believe that we had the percents of health and damage output and stuff. So I guess you would just go and, because we know what the scaling is on monsters as they go up in Greater Rifts, so you could kind of figure out like maybe it's 45 or 50 or whatever. It would actually be really interesting if it ends up being like right around what like Greater Rift 30 is, and then you just like annihilate it in our superpowered gear now.
Yeah.
Like, so this is what we were banging our heads against all along for months on end.
As another anniversary thing, I would just love for them to be able to have some way of a PC player being able to do the Last of Us Greater Rift.
Ooh. That's one that's probably a bit of a further stretch.
Yeah.
Drop a couple of tears there, but...
Have to be some legalese that has to go on in the background there, I'm sure.
Right. Let me, I have a couple more of these suggestions from people. One was, for a full weekend, change the game brightness back to its minimum, so dark rift style, and then glow pickup radius changes to light radius. So to kind of bring back some of that D2-esque feel to it when, light radius actually mattered, so you can see worth a damn of what you were hitting in front of you.
Yeah.
Some interesting ones in chat. Go back to 3-second smoke screen. That's not happening.
Or the one that I like, the Uber Nether Tentacles.
Oh man, yeah.
That's actually, if I could go on a small tangent for the second.
Please.
Ball lightning does what Nether Tentacle used to do. But they took that ability away from Nether Tentacle and still haven't added it back. It's like, why not? They even made an item to take advantage of the fact that ball lightning has that property that slows down the little lightning cloud, just so that way it can tick on an enemy even more times.
Right. Yeah, for those who don't remember, back in the day before they fixed the bug, in quotes, Nether Tentacles used to hit twice, I believe, and maybe 3 times if the enemy were big enough, because I know people were saying like if you shot it through Belial from one side to the other, you would get
It could hit a couple of times.
Yeah. But for the most part, you were getting 2 hits out of it, out of casting it against an enemy depending on their hitbox, etc. And so that was crazy back in the day because it was a ton of damage output when most classes were just like struggling to do damage at all. And so Demon Hunters were one of the first classes to progress pretty far into Inferno just because, almost like what we see now with Greater Rifts, to be perfectly honest, it's a lot about not getting hit and just shooting stuff and killing it before it reaches you. And Nether Tentacles was one of the best ways to do that. And yeah, like Nineball just mentioned, they ended up changing it so it doesn't do that anymore. But now Ball Lightning does. So it's like, what about Nether Tentacles? And also I think Nether Tentacles moved naturally slower than any of the other ones, correct?
Yeah, I think it moves about the same speed that Ball Lightning does.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't used it in so long, I don't even know.
Yeah. The only thing is that it also, whenever it hits an enemy, it returns 0.4% of your maximum life. So I guess that's supposed to offset the fact that it does drastically reduce damage compared to Ball Lightning.
Mm-hmm. One of the few.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are things that we could bring back that we could see, but until we know for sure, right now, no community buff. I imagine they have to unveil something in the coming days.
Yeah, there's got to be a community buff. They just haven't announced it yet.
Mm-hmm.
It'll probably be something along the lines of the Reaper of Souls community buff. So, experience double goblins.
Yeah. Yep. That would make sense. I would be a fan of that as well. Just grind out some extra Paragon.
Mm-hmm.
But in the spirit of this anniversary, and we actually have touched on a lot of these already, I prepared a quiz.
Oh boy.
For you.
Yeah.
And by the way, for everyone listening, I didn't really tell Nineball that I was going to do this. We usually discuss kind of, a few days in advance what we're thinking about for the show, what seems to be happening in the community. And so I just sent him a message. I was like, man, how about like a top 10 list of just some cool stuff that happened back in the day to celebrate the anniversary? And he's like, yeah, and he goes off on this list of stuff. And all the while in the background, I'm like, he doesn't know. He doesn't know I'm plotting this quiz for him, actually. So I have 10 questions. And if you want to play along at home, you could probably just pause after I say the question, depending on how quickly Nineball is going to give his answer, or hem and haw looking for an answer and not find one. But yeah, let's get into this. I think it'll be fun.
Yep. He surprised this on me like right before we went live with the pre-show, and is like, I've got a special segment for you. And I'm just like, are you gonna quiz me?
And I was just like, yeah, it's a quiz. I was like, no, I'm not gonna tell you what it is. Surprise.
Ooh.
Until you guess it perfectly.
Yep.
All right, so I feel like I need like Jeopardy music or something. Just pretend it's in the background. All right, so question the first. What was the first skill in the game to be nerfed after launch? And you need to give me the class, the skill, and the rune.
Dang. Wizard, energy armor, and I forget the rune.
That's close, because that was eventually nerfed.
Yeah.
But the first one to be nerfed was actually Monk, Serenity, Tranquility. And they took the immunity time that it gave to your party members was reduced from 2 to 1.
1 second. Yes, because that was done directly to Athane's group because they were grinding to try and be the world first Inferno Diablo kill. And they were running a group of 4 monks that were each running that one so they could stay immune 100% of the time.
That's right. They were just cycling it. Oh, how far we've come. Now we finally addressed all this. It's funny, too, because obviously this was like a powerful thing that people found. And similar to what some people are saying in chat, Smokescreen kind of had similar treatment. But of course, just recently, they then again touched on not having permanent immunity in the game. And so that was the whole changing of the cooldown starting after that immunity time ends. So you see that with Smokescreen, with Spirit Walk, etc. So some issues, even back in the beginning of the game, are still prevalent today.
Yeah, and that was like quick. That was like day one. That was like a day one nerf, wasn't it?
It was a hot fix. Like I think it actually was like May 16th or so. I wish I'd written down the date.
I believe that it hit them as they were putting in attempts on Belial. Yeah, if I remember correctly. They had to end their run there. And then so it was basically, at that point, out of the big streamers, it was just the Curse team. that was going, and everyone was going to say it was them first, and then some one solo guy that was playing a wizard ended up going and clearing in front of Diablo before anybody else that no one was following. It was I don't even think he was streaming; he just did it.
He just did it.
Yeah, he just did it.
Like, hey guys, I did it. And that
Yep.
was the nerf that you were referring to, because he was basically leveraging the energy armor to take hits, since it was, I believe it basically stopped you from taking fatal damage.
Yeah, it was. If I'm trying to remember the exact wording of
Yeah,
the
I forget
skill.
exactly.
Yeah, it's just you had to have very very little health, and it would ignore it if it would kill you or bring you under 25% health. So you basically had no vitality on your gear, so every hit would kill you, and it would negate everything.
Yeah, pretty ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an easy one for you. You should knock this out of the park. What infamous error number prevented millions of players from logging into Diablo 3 on opening night?
It couldn't have been one that I mentioned in my opening. So that one was an error 37.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yep.
You are correct, sir.
Who could forget that one?
Who could forget?
Yeah.
That one ended up with its own slate of memes and all sorts of stuff. I actually saw a couple as I was doing research. One was like, I don't always play Diablo, but when I try to, I get error 37.
I still remember, if anybody, what's it, Boogie2598 or something like that? He does the Francis character.
Yes.
Trying to go through and play Diablo. Error 37? Error 37? How is this not error 1? I can't play the goddamn game!
His videos are great.
What are the other 36 errors?
It does stand to reason. Are there 36 before login? Like, what?
I know.
What could there be?
It was hilarious.
Too good.
Yeah, that was one that affected me. I ended up going and taking a nap and then waking up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I think I was finally able to log in.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't even play. I had gotten the game the day of, but I was still on my like super running kick, and then I got injured the next day running, and so I was like, I guess I'm just gonna play this game, and that was the beginning of the end, because running was never the same, and playing games was never the same. Oh boy. All right, you ready for number 3?
Okay, let's do this.
All right. What was the name of the method used by players to quickly earn experience with limited gameplay?
Name of the method to gain experience with limited gameplay.
It's a bit of a tougher one.
Yeah, that one I don't even.
Let me give you an example. So, for instance, a party of people would go in and start the Kill Zoltan Cool quest, and then one person would leave the game, or a couple of people would leave the game and start their own games. There would be the person that was getting the boost to accept the quest, and then they would leave that game, go to the next player's game, and then because the quest hadn't been accepted in that game, they would go there, accept that quest, get the experience and the gold, and then leave and go to the next game, etc.
Oh, I honestly don't know this one. Like, I guess that one was just a boosting or like speed farming. I have no idea.
It's quest cascading.
Quest cascading.
I believe it was a term that they used.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, that even hearing the answer still does not trigger any bells. I mean, I remember the method and people going through and doing it. I never remember it being called that.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I picked this one because again it was another thing that we saw throughout the lifetime of the game still continue in terms not necessarily the cascade, but just people trying to leverage the different quests. And, you know, doing this, the repeatability and the fact that it kept giving you the first time experience, which was way greater than you were supposed to get from subsequent clears of that same quest. So they eventually did end up fixing those. So let's move to question 4. This is great. What was the original duration for an auction, and what was it then lowered to?
Dang, I should remember this one. I wrote articles about this one for Ink Gamers. Wasn't it? It was 36 and then it was dropped to 23.
Oof, you're close. It started out at 48.
48,
and then dropped to 36.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I remember that there was also an early exploit for that one where it was actually tied to your computer time, not a server time. So you could quickly end your auctions by setting your clock forward.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
So crazy. Because at this time, if you recall, because they did, and this is why these questions are interesting, because things change so drastically and quickly. The
yep,
durations, you actually couldn't cancel your auctions originally. So you had
yeah,
to wait the timers out.
yep.
And that was why people start to leverage that clock thing you just mentioned.
Hmm.
All right, on we go. The world's hardest quiz. All right, number 5. Oh, all right. Which Demon Hunter skill was initially the most popular way to kill enemies until it later received a bug fix? I need the skill in the rune, please.
um, let's see. Ball lightning nether tentacle. Relevant conversations are relevant.
Imagine that.
Yeah, yep,
Yep, good old elemental arrow with nether tentacles.
yep.
Huh. Seems like we were just talking.
If anybody at home got that one wrong, I am disappointed. Or you just joined us in the stream and missed out on the first part of the conversation.
Right.
Uh,
All right, moving right along. Number 6. True or false? Monks could not use two-handed axes, maces, or swords upon first release of the game.
True.
This is true.
Yeah.
Like,
They had a whole bunch of weird restrictions on the monk character. You just weren't able to use them.
which is weird when you think about it, because I didn't remember this at all when I was looking through the patch notes and stuff. It's like, why was that a thing? I want to know what the philosophy behind that was.
It was because of the aesthetics of the monk. You know, they almost started them without being able to use shields.
Oh.
Because, and I believe it was Bashiok at one point on the forums, or someone else, I believe the comment was something along the lines of, like, Bruce Lee never used a shield. Because that was one of the things that they had did. You know, it's like the monk was really supposed to be like a kung fu master. You know, they weren't going to use a shield or like big axes or anything like that. It was all going to be a lot more kind of, Oriental flavor with
Right.
like kung fu and karate and all that stuff.
The daibos and the fist weapons and things.
Yep,
So mostly playing on the fantasy there originally.
exactly.
Huh. How about that?
Hmm.
And then it changed. All right.
Yep.
This is also one that may seem familiar. What was the name of the stacks gained from killing elite monsters?
Ooh, I know this one. I know this one. I'll give everyone else a second. Nephilim Valor.
Yes, indeed. Nephilim
So
Valor.
So many hours spent in Festering Woods farming Nephilim Valor.
Yes, I had to make this a question after our discussion last week, trying to remember the name of that place.
Yeah.
Just be like, what was it? Because, yeah, that really was. You know, you open up a game, and of course you couldn't jump to different acts, by the way. So you open up your Act 1 game, and first stop, Festering Woods, get your at least 3 stacks of Nephilim Valor there, and then go and find 2 more elites, hopefully, before...
Yeah.
Before you did what? Before you just ran around and killed high-density areas, right?
Pretty much. Which at that point in time, if you were going to Festering Woods, you were then going and clearing out Weeping Hollows and Fields of Misery, or just Fields of Misery, or just flipping games going through and finding crypts.
That's right.
Before that, for the Alkaiser runs, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Keep's Depth 3 and then Core of Ariat to get your 5 stacks before you then went through and did Rakkus Crossing and Ariat Crater 2.
That makes sense. I would say even going Core Variant first because it's low density but high elite density.
Yeah,
And then-
I know that was one of the places. It was like Keep Step 3 and Core Variant were like the 2 that you would use because they almost were guaranteed to have 2 to 3 packs in each of those locations, and they were very, very small zones.
Yeah, exactly. So you just rush through them. And what I was reading, I didn't even remember this. Nephilim Valor originally didn't have buffs to it. It was just you needed to stack them up so you would have better chances to get items like rares and things like that. But it was until, I think, patch 1.0.4 when they started to get like the 15% magic find per stack and things like that.
Yeah, before it was that it was like what elites just didn't drop anything, and then when you had the 5 stacks, they were guaranteed to drop like 2 or 3 yellows.
Something like that,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow. Well, how far have we come, man?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely crazy. All right, next question here. Kind of preempted it a little bit, but which major patch simultaneously introduced significant nerfs to Inferno and the Paragon system?
Dang it. Because I know Nephilim Valor was the patch before it,
Mm-hmm.
and then Monster Power came, or the Paragon system came out. I want to say it was 0.3 or 0.4.
0.4.
0.4.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so 1.0.4
Mm-hmm.
was probably the most significant was the most significant patch of the patches early on,
Uh-huh.
because it did add Paragon. It added reworked legendaries as well. So that was when we started to see like legendaries that were actually worth a damn and useful and whatnot.
Scorn.
Scorn, yep,
Yeah.
Scorn,
Uh-huh.
and whatchamacallit too. Wow, how can I forget this? What was the bow? Poison.
Manticore.
Yes, Manticore.
Manticore.
Yep, those are the ones. Here's a bonus question for you. This is like impossible, but if you know, I'll be impressed. What date did this patch come out?
I think someone posted it in chat already, so
did
I'm
they?
cheating. August 22nd, 2012.
Oh, nice. I had 21, but close enough.
Ards, are you from Europe?
Yep,
That would be the question.
probably, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a day that lived in infamy, and I remember people were knowing in it ahead of time because there were a lot of like what should I call them, blogs and things, informations that we were getting that these nerfs were going to come and reworks to the drops and them being more plentiful and whatnot. So people were trying to beat Inferno ahead of this so they could claim like I beat it before it was nerfed and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
That was definitely one of the things that got me to roll Wizard. Although I did beat it before the Inferno nerf, I also beat it before they nerfed Diablo.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's-
Though it was a wizard using the energy armor. You still had to... It was after they fixed it so that made you like completely immortal.
Mm-hmm.
But before they nerfed Diablo.
Gotcha. Crazy times. Another true-false question. Magic Find was originally averaged among players rather than applied individually.
True.
This is true.
Yep.
So it was another one of those interesting, because we were talking last week about multiplayer and how there were so many benefits to it, and then originally, of course, there were so many detriments to multiplayer, and one of them that kind of gets overlooked was that Magic Find was actually average. So you would have people putting together MF sets and kind of like risking their lives a little bit more because they're even squishier than usual. And then some guy comes in to leech your game, and now you're getting like 50% of what you had before. Pretty insane. Pretty insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, Magic Find, and of course now it is no longer even a thing, really and truly.
Yeah.
Bonus.
Still, you got a couple things that you can still get Magic Find from, which I wonder. I'm trying to remember. At the last Tavern Talk, did they say that they were thinking about changing topazes to no longer give Magic Find in helms?
No, they said they wanted to leave it because there's that one guy who's using it.
Ah, gotcha. We'll have to wait till Sapphires.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Sapphire's confirmed. So yeah, and then bonus question if you want. I don't know how to phrase this without giving it away, but I guess bonus discussion. So originally, when they introduced the Paragon system, actually, here's a question: do you know what the original rewards were per level for Paragon?
You got basically your level up stats. So it was 3 of your main stat, 2 of Vitality, and 1 to the other stats, and it was 3% Magic Find and Gold Find.
That's right.
Okay.
That is right. I'm not super sure on the main stat. It's either 3 or 5. I can't remember. I'm thinking 5 maybe just because of what we see now, but I think 3 is actually right. I can't recall.
It's because each one was just a regular level up, which was 3 main stat, 2 Vitality, and 1 of the other stats.
Okay, then if you're sure about that, then yeah, that's definitely what it was.
I am pretty sure.
All right.
Pretty sure.
And then yeah, the 3% MF and Gold Find.
Mm-hmm.
which of course was eventually changed out. But yeah, that was kind of a thing back. The spawn, the all Kaiser runs, getting up to Paragon 100 was a huge deal because you were going to be able to find way more legendaries than Paragon 10 or 20 or 30 character.
Because at the time, 300% Magic Find was the max.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like kind of like the benefit. Once you got Paragon 100, you didn't have to have any Magic Find on your gear. At the time, of course, you had to balance your offensive capabilities, defensive capabilities, and have Magic Find on your gear to have a chance of finding anything. It was something that we had talked about a couple of times back on our Ink Gamers days, and Flux always pointed out something that you noticed. If you had 100% Magic Find, you didn't really find anything, but if you had 200% Magic Find, you weren't finding 200% more legendaries, you were finding like 1,000% more legendaries. It was a significant uptake as your Magic Find went up. It didn't feel like it was an actual linear scale.
Right, yeah. No, it made a huge difference. It really did. Oh, this last question.
Oh boy.
So it's funny, just the things that we talked about already. Which elite monster fix was the first one to be removed from the game in patch 1.0.4?
Invincible minions?
Yes, invulnerable minions.
Good old invincible minions.
I just, and if I recall correct, because I was trying to think about it too, how it works. So if I recall correctly, because the minions that they had were invulnerable, the actual elite that you could target had lower HP, right? So that was kind of the trade-off, if I recall.
I don't even remember that.
Don't know.
It might have had reduced HP, but I really don't even remember that one. I just remember, at the time I was playing a monk, and it was just so. Because at the time you also had what is it, enrage timers?
Yep.
So the elite mobs, if you didn't kill them within a certain amount of time, they'd gain a buff in the amount of damage, and they'd also have this huge damage aura around them. So it's like, if you can't beat me in 10 minutes, you're never beating me ever. And when it was invulnerable minions with a monk, or the resource generation back then was just complete and total crap. And you couldn't, gather resources if you couldn't hurt it. So you couldn't get any additional spirit to fund any of your abilities, any of your defensive skills or offensive skills off of invulnerable minions. And you'd run into the pack that was just like invulnerable minions horde. It was like, okay, good night. Even though at the time I was playing softcore, it was like, all right, log off. I'm done. This map is finished. Garbage. Not happening.
New game, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always had the stupidly bullheaded approach of I didn't want to skip packs or anything like that, but man, those tried my patience to no end. I was playing Bard back then too, so similar to what you're just describing. Melee was already tough enough, and then throw in invulnerable minions, and my god, your life was just miserable.
Yeah.
Trying to do anything. I was thinking, because Nerdwords did mention that, it'd be cool if they brought it back. I was thinking, how could they actually bring it back and have it still, like, matter? Or have it not be as annoying as it was. And I would think if they were invulnerable, so they never died, but you could still, like, proc things off of them, like, they could still be CC'd, so you could slow them down to get to the main elite that wasn't invulnerable, or you could possibly, get life hit off of them or something. So they were still always a presence. You had to still like mitigate their damage, but you could at least like not be super gimped by not being able to interact with them any at all.
Yeah, that's one thing, or just like limit the number, because they would, the yellow mobs always spawn with, like 4 to 6 of the little minions, and then if they're a horde, you've got 8 more. If they maybe only had 2, that might be a little bit balanced, because that way you can actually hit it. Because normally, you'd go through and you get swamped. It's like invulnerable minions plus fast, never getting to the yellow ever. You never actually be able to catch it, because they'll always just go and completely circle you. But if there's only like 2 of them, it's not, it wouldn't be as bad, because you could still get, to the champion and kill it.
Right, there's more maneuverability that way.
Yeah.
You weren't dealing. I feel like at the end of the day, they ended up basically being like a fix thrower outers You know, it was just like, hey, here's a never-ending source of arcane beams right at
Mhm.
you. Deal with it.
I'm remembering one that they had showcased, but never actually made it into the game, and it was at the time it was called Die Together. I think
Oh,
something
I
like
do
that.
recall that. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
believe that it evolved into Health Link,
Health
but it
Link
was the mobs could only be killed if you killed them all at the
at
same
the same
time.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, so if you actually killed one, it would stay at one health, sit there for a little bit, and the other ones weren't reduced down at the same time. I think it healed like a little bit, or you
it,
just it would still continue to go through and attack you until they were all dead.
it sounds right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see that being an interesting
yeah.
one too. Just imagining, the damage output that we had and how slow everything was, especially if you couldn't do AoE, then, forget about it on Die Together.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of my quiz. I think you did pretty well. I don't know if anyone's keeping score at home. Some of the questions are a little tough, I won't lie.
I have to put together something for you for next episode.
Oh, bring it on, man. Bring it
Yeah.
on. I'll be studying, because now I'll have at least some ahead notice, but you had none.
Uh huh. Now you'll be expecting it.
That's right.
I'll pop it on you like 3 months from now.
Oh, man. That's the rub. That's how you get me.
Pop quiz.
I'm ready. I'm excited. All right. So, were there any other trips down memory lane you wanted to take on anniversary stuff?
Oh.
Quiz
Trying
about
to.
sorry, quiz about movies. Perfect for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give you a quiz about films. I'll just take it, like Academy. Well, can't even really say Academy Award winners because nowadays all Academy Award winners are like independent
The
films.
most obscure ones.
Yeah, exactly. But, just like big blockbusters. Ask you about like Terminator 2, things like that. Things that you should know, but you don't.
Nope. Nope. Even Terminator. I'm like, who was in that?
Yeah, who
Was that
said
David Duchovny?
who said the quote "I'll be back"? Yeah,
Was that Muldrin? I think that was Muldrin.
that I believe that was Waldron. I think he. I'll accept that one because he has said it a couple times.
But yeah, I guess that's it for anniversary stuff.
Yeah.
If you guys have any cool stories or memories, we'd be happy to hear about them. We can continue anniversary week into next week as well. So send something in. Story time with Nineball and Leviathan. Headed on over to Westmarch Workshop at BlizzPro.com, and maybe we'll read out our favorite ones next week. There were a couple other quick features that I wanted to do before we headed into the feedback section, actually. On the website, Diablo.BlizzPro.com, I actually put up a guide earlier this week on how to beat the Avarice and Avaricia Conquest. So if you guys have been having issues with it, if you have interest in getting into Conquest, you're getting into the point of the season now where your characters are pretty set up and you're looking for things to do, then maybe you want to follow this guide and get it done. It's pretty in-depth, so if you have any questions beyond this, of course you can always write in or ask or get in contact with me. There's contact info in here and whatnot, but hopefully that should get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also wanted to showcase the Horadrim Corner, which is the build column that Jeff, 3 Days JPT, writes for us. Comes out on Fridays. And last week he actually covered my Barbarian. So this is just more shameless self-promotion, but in a helpful way because this is the build that I use for Greater Rifts. So anyone that's having issues with Greater Rifts, like I mentioned, I did get up to 49, so it's at least good enough for that. You can get some help here. It talks about gear and skills and all that good stuff. And I know that we do have some feedback coming that asks for Barb questions, so I'm kind of preempting the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, there was something from your side of the world that we wanted to talk about. Because I know you do another podcast on Tuesdays.
Yeah, yeah. For those of you that don't know, on Tuesdays over on the Twizcast channel, a group of us from BlizzPro get together and we talk about Heroes of the Storm and play a couple of games. In this last patch, which is kind of like the big patch going into their open beta and eventually their launch, even though the new hero that came out was Kel'Thas, the character from Warcraft, in the patch information was also the Crusader from Diablo 3. And it is awesome. to say the least. It is Johanna, so it's the female crusader.
Yes.
We actually have her name now, so we have the name of the actual character. For those that remember, they did do a short story about Crusaders prior to Reaper of Souls launch, but that, at the end of the story, it definitely made it seem as if that this character is not the Crusader that you play in the game, because she only then heard about the meteor that fell in Tristram and was like, well, I'm not going to be the first one there, but we can go and see what we can help out. So we finally actually have the name of the female crusader, and her skill set is like amazing. I'm sure that the numbers are going to be tuned, but it is absolutely impressive. She's got slows, she's got stuns, she has blinds. It's ridiculous. Her trait basically doubles her health for 4 seconds and makes her immune to stuns and slows and all other types of stuff. She is going to be an amazing bruiser of a character. Great initiation, can take a beating, and can definitely just dish it out and tear the enemy's team apart. Just through not just damage, but these characters are stunned. These are going to miss like their next 3 attacks. These guys are slowed, so they can't get away. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Some people were hoping that she would be the support character, but the Crusader, anyone that plays them, they know that they're not a support character. They're in the nitty gritty. They get in there and they kill things.
Yeah, I think if there will be a Diablo support character, it's probably going to be relegated to Monk. They seem the most poised for it, especially because that was most of their life for Reaper of Souls, right?
Yeah, that they could be a support character. I actually am just going to throw out there a theory that probably one of our first Diablo support characters is going to be Ariel.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, get an angel in there.
Yeah, I mean they already have Tyrael in there. They have Diablo and Azmodan, so they don't have to pick from the Nephilim. They obviously are picking from a lot of other people. I would love to see like a Diablo support character they go through and throw in the D2 Paladin.
Oh man, wouldn't that be crazy? Because there is no reason why they can't do D2 stuff, right?
The main Diablo skin that they use for Heroes of the Storm is the Diablo 2 Diablo,
You're
not
right.
the Diablo 3 one. In addition to that, this last patch, as kind of like a throwback, and one of the things that I really enjoy, they gave Diablo a mount option where he runs on all fours like he does in the boss fight in Diablo 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
That's excellent. I remember being so frightened. Like I was a little teen back in D2 days, but playing late at night and you got the lights down. It's the first time and whatnot. I just remember him like running up to me super fast. I was like, "Oh my god, what's happening?" And it's like the red lightning thing. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I'm so scared. So much fun.
You're sitting there, you're going and you're trying to attack him, and then he just he runs up to you, he hits you with the cold hand, you're frozen, then he kind of runs away, and you see him come by the top of the screen, and then you get hit by the bone prison, then he just like runs up and lightning, and you're dead. It's just
man, so brutal.
It was definitely something else. Loved it.
Absolutely.
Loved it.
Love the pain. Love the pain. So yeah, that was it pretty much from the wide world of news and sports and esports and Diablo news and all that good stuff. So unless you have anything else, I am ready to head into listener feedback.
The only other thing is just that there's a little bit of talk of some of the changes coming up in 2.3. Grumiku jumped into a thread where they're talking about just how high Greater Rift damage scales. And that it kind of, in order to progress or just to make it fair, they need to kind of tone it down a little bit. Because at the moment, we've talked about it plenty of times before. Once you get past a certain Greater Rift, survivability means nothing because you can never compete with how high the damage scales. So you might as well just go full damage and clear through it. And that's the point that hardcore stops and softcore continues to go on and progress further. Grumiku just wanted to touch on that they do have plans in scaling down the damage, but it's going to coincide with the removal of permanent CC. And it's the fact that you can permanently crowd control mobs is what's making it so that way they have to scale damage up really high. Because if the mob only gets maybe 1 or 2 attacks off before it's CC'd for the next 15 seconds and killed, it has to be a threat in those 2 attacks. So it has to be, really high damage. But they do want to address that and kind of bring it down. So we'll likely see, hopefully this will be for patch 2.3, they're going to remove permanent crowd control, reduce damage in greater rifts, but one of the things he just goes and states there at the end is that they want to make sure defensive legendary items still matter.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that the scaling of the damage is going to come down, but it's not going to be like a walk in the park. So they want to bring down the damage to more realistic levels, but still make it so that way you have to gear defensively. To me, that kind of thinks that it's not going to be a linear scaling method for damage. It might scale linearly up to a certain point, say greater of 40, greater of 45. And then from there, you might see the numbers trickle down a little bit. So that way, as the greater rifts get higher, the amount of damage that it increases is lower per level.
Right.
So the damage is still going up, but not in the same leaps and bounds that it is in, say, like the first 40 levels.
Right. So it'd almost be similar to the rework that they did between Season 1 and Season 2, actually. Because that was when we saw some decent changes to the Greater Rift structure and being able to just go further by virtue of not getting hit as hard. And the mobs also not having as much HP, too. I think it was more of an HP change than anything there, too. But now we're seeing the other side of that equation with the damage output. So I hope they do strike the perfect balance between, like you were just mentioning, having damage still matter, because it should not be that walk in the park where you're just gearing even further into DPS because now you definitely won't die as a glass cannon. Find that fine line between that and also having something like the esoteric alteration actually be a valuable choice. Saying, all right, I am going to sacrifice some defense, some offense in my legendary gem setup, but I'm actually going to be able to progress higher into greater rifts because now I don't have to worry about taking even more defensive passives or something, like just the trade-offs of being able to switch things out and have them matter to a degree where you're actually not feeling like there's no point, I just got to go all offense and get hit or not hit.
Yeah. I will definitely be very, very interested in seeing how they handle the scaling and the numbers up at that level, because it is one of those fine lines with trying to find a way to scale greater rifts without handcrafting everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone over this probably half a dozen episodes or probably a couple dozen episodes. It's just they have to do something where it increases the damage and the health of the mobs until they find some other way to scale the greater rifts higher. Adding in a fix on elites or something along those lines. I have no idea. But just it'll be interesting to see if they can fine tune it to be more appropriate without all of a sudden everyone can just clear 20 rifts higher than what they had cleared before.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing that seems to be kind of under the underlying current here is a lot of players who primarily play the support classes and enjoy that playstyle. They feel as if their way of enjoying the game is being undercut a bit. And I want to almost put like a wait and see on that, because I don't know that not having a support class inside of Greater Rifts won't matter. I think they're still going to have a bit of an effect in terms of, we need to slow these packs down, or we need to kind of be able to group things up, because it's still going to be important to have great density. And what does a support crusader do but provide that by being able to drag monsters into one central location? Of course, they're going to wander a little bit more than they used to, since you can't lock it down permanently. But just by virtue of being able to say, like, I have high mobility, you gear for more DPS and a bit less mobility, and we combine our powers and we clear faster, I still think you're going to see some of that need for support-ish. Maybe you'll go hybrids now. You have some support, some DPS or something. But I think I don't think you should just like hang up your support boots just yet.
Yeah. We'll have to see what other ways, because obviously the supports right now are kind of built around, say, witch doctors, because they can kind of keep things centralized with piranhas and then lock them down permanently with horrify. but they're also just a really good force multiplier with what they can do with your damage, between piranhas and slam dance.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that they still can fill that niche of being just a force multiplier for the group to increase your damage what it would be than just adding in a fourth DPS character.
For sure.
With while still offering some ability to go and keep things grouped up or locked down, a little bit in order to kind of lessen the impact of a massive, like double elite packs or something like that. Kind of like lock them down for a little bit so that way you have some time to set up or run away.
Mm-hmm. Or like use your true burst potential, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see. Don't burn the building down just yet. Wait till we get some PTR and then you can burn things down.
Yep.
Outside of that, now I think we're ready for feedback.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covered most of it. Yeah.
All right.
They were good.
Excellent. Well, let us get going on to what we have here. I guess I will go ahead and take the very first one. It's just a image that we got from Crawlinth, and he wanted to showcase, because I remember I actually wanted to pull this one in because back in the day, Archon and you were pretty good about having a little competition for toughness, if you recall. There were those people submitting all their gold wrap and using the vaults to get really crazy numbers. Well, Crawlinth just went ahead and was like, by the way, guys, I beat you all. So he submitted this image, and it is toughness that is up to 67 billion, which is just pretty crazy. And then what's funny too is because recovery scales off of toughness as well, you see 1.242 billion recovery, which is just absurd. But yeah, he mentioned that he was using a gold wrap in his T6 farming, and he feels rather invincible when he does. So I just want to show this off. And what I'm wondering is, why are there are like gems missing in his pants and like one missing in the chest? I don't know how that happened or why that happened.
That is a very interesting question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Huh.
I was curious on why that happened. So if you're here or if you're not here, let's talk about this. I'm confused.
Yeah, definitely.
But also, yeah. I actually thought I had something else to add to that, but I don't. So there we go.
Well, alrighty then. I think.
He also would have gotten the avarice thing, by the way, because he has a 63 million streak there.
Oh god, I completely missed that figure. How much gold he'd actually collected in order to go and get that much armor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that is significant.
Indeed. All right. So what's next?
Next from there, there is a question that we got from War. He sent in a Star Metal Kukri that he wanted a suggestion on rerolls for.
I will throw that up on the screen as we go in and talk about it.
Oh, you're going through and getting that up?
Yep.
And now this one, rolled quite beautifully. As you can go through and see there up on the screen, that there is not a lot that you'd really want to change about this item. And he just wanted to know, if what it is that he could do in order to go and make it better. In his email, he asked, should I reroll the critical hit damage into Vitality just for some extra survivability? And if you really need the extra survivability, I would probably go for life on hit over Vitality on the weapon. But your weapon is there for it's there for damage, and not so much survivability. If you need more, try and leverage it on a different piece of gear. But for that, it's too beautiful.
Yep. Yep, it's pretty crazy. It's an ancient Star Metal Kukri, by the way, for those who are listening, with 3007 DPS. And again, nothing re-rolled on this. 9% damage, 879 intelligence, 31% critical hit damage, and then, of course, a Ronald McDonald's Happy Meal on here to get the socket with another 130% critical hit damage. And he's got some maximum mana as a secondary, and of course the beautiful power of the Star Metal Kukri, which is reducing your cooldowns of the Fetish army and Big Bad Voodoo by 1 second each time your fetishes deal damage.
Yep. So I would definitely have to say this one is probably one of the easier reroll questions that we've gotten, because I wouldn't change anything on it.
Yep.
Yeah. If you want, as far as that goes, I think putting it into the calculator, it's the numbers are close between re-rolling the base damage and re-rolling the damage percentage. It's when they're kind of close like that, I would probably just go for rolling it from the 9% to 10% damage, because it will be forever trying to get that base damage
To be perfect.
To be perfect. Yeah, so you'll probably get the most mileage out of re-rolling the 9 to 10%.
Pretty insane.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So congrats on just finding that in the first place. I wanted to make sure we talked about that one. I'm glad we did, because it's hard enough to find a Star Metal and then an Ancient one and then one that rolled as well as that did.
Yep.
It's like you actually should probably just play the lotto at this point.
Yeah. And not to mention the fact that it didn't roll with a socket to start off with. So,
Yep.
it literally was perfect in every way.
Yeah. All right, so we've got a question here from Derek. He says, "Sup, fellas? Past podcast, I thought I heard you mention that there's a website that snapshots characters' gear and spec when they finish a Greater Rift. Tried looking for the website, but I can't find it. Can you send me a link?" I actually don't know what the website is. I've just heard about it through whispers and rumors and whatnot. I think it does exist, but I'll do more research to try and find it.
Well, the official site itself, you can use. I think that was what we were talking about by linking to the profile of the character. After they had completed it, from the leaderboard itself.
Oh, no, the only thing I was talking about there is that you can hover over their completion and you'll see what gear they have on.
Yeah.
But of course, if it's transmog, then you won't know. But it'll at least, you can only transmog items for the most part. So if you see a two-handed sword and you know what the builds are available for that class, you can say, oh, it's probably Blade of Prophecy, transmog to look like something else, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But normally, for the most part, when characters log out, they can log out wearing whatever, and that's what'll show up on your character profile. So you can do a bit of deception in terms of throwing on a completely different gem than you actually used in your Greater 50 clear, and people might copy it and say, oh, this is what he used, but I can't do it.
Yeah, and there's something happened in the 2.2, and so it doesn't actually snapshot your character on log off anymore. Because a lot of people have noticed that because they wanted to go and link to a gear set, but it hadn't updated yet.
Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a delay.
Yeah. There is DiabloProgress.com, though that just pulls information from the armory and requires the person to actually add their character to Diablo Progress and update the character.
So yeah, there are a couple of different ways to at least look and get groundwork on what's happening with characters and whatnot, but nothing is 100%. So if you want to follow word for word what the number one player is doing, you should do that with the caveat that it might be he's in his speed gear, or trying to actually throw some deception, taking gems out or using different gems or whatever. So that's just a thought to keep in mind. But he goes on to say that he's been using non-ancient BK swords on his barb. He has an ancient IK Boulder Breaker, but feels like it slows down and has a problem with the Fury regen, so he wants to see what other people are using to get to higher Greater Rifts. And so like I mentioned previously, 3 Days JPT just did that highlight last Friday on the Barbarian, and that was the one that I threw him for kind of a template. So you can go and use that at least to give you a bit of a background on kind of what's happening in the meta. It's a very cookie cutter, this is kind of what everyone is doing, and I have some variations in there as well as to what you can possibly care for and change if you want to use different elements and all things like that. So I would definitely start your visit there, Diablo.BlizzPro.com, find his Horadrim Corner Barbarian build stuff, and then if you have further specific questions, definitely get in touch.
Oh, moving on from there, this one comes in from a different Jeff. This is actually kind of addressed to the both of us. Hello, Nineball and Leviathan. I love your Sanctuary Sweatshop podcast. Nice. Anyway, I've been a longtime player thinking about making the jump into hardcore for Season 4. My question is, as the season starts, what steps do you take? Do you roll one characters or two? Do you go through a specific toughness level before you go into greater rifts? Do you level up Gem of Ease first and level a Twink? Just general questions on how you go and you tackle seasons, to get prepared into it.
It's a good
Um,
question.
yeah. I would say nowadays I don't really level a twink character or a backup character, at least for the first couple of weeks. Just more focused on putting my time into getting that character, the main character, kind of up and running, and trying to tackle some conquests or some achievements. uh, if you're new to hardcore and you're not going to be going for conquests, it would not be bad to go through and level up your Gem of Ease first and then level up a backup. It all comes down to you, your style of play, and how comfortable you feel. If you kind of feel that you have a hand, like a handle on it, by all means, just go through and try and get one character kind of decently geared up. I think a good point would be is if you get your first character up to the point where you can farm T6 effectively, then at that point you might have the time to go and level up a backup character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
by all means.
No, I was just gonna hop in and say, yeah, I think getting that one character up to that T6 farming area is really good, because then it kind of becomes a feeder for your other alts or things you might want to experiment with, or even just for terms of getting that backup gear, right? Because that's one thing too that helps to mitigate that eventual moment when you do die. Just having something. So kind of the Gem of Ease question is, am I preparing for death or not, basically? And it's all about time at the end of it. So you want to definitely work on your one main character, but at the same time, you also want to spend time preparing for time that you might need in the future when you do die, or if you die. Just making it a little bit easier to hop right back in.
Yeah, pretty much. And then one of the other things that I would just suggest to his other question: what toughness level before you try the low greater rifts? It's like, if you're going into a greater rift, that means you've completed a rift on Torment 1 and have gotten a key, which means you can go up to Torment 6 or greater rift 6 in terms of difficulty. So you're good on that respect if you just want to kind of slow roll and get some legendary gems. Also, it's always a tricky question, and one that we get a lot. Like, what toughness should I have before I go up, or before I get to Torment 1 or Torment 6? And the answer is when you feel comfortable. It's one of those, it's like, it changes from class to class. It changes depending upon the legendary gems or legendaries that you have before you can go up in difficulty. Some classes just have better escape skills. Some are just better at taking damage or have better recovery options. And it really comes down to just when you're comfortable. If you feel as if this level of difficulty really isn't a challenge for me anymore, I can go and take the next one. The largest is always getting into Torment 1, just because you're normally playing on normal and then going straight into Torment 1. If it's your first time going and playing, go ahead, try hard, try master, try expert, just to get a feel for those difficulties, before you make the eventual, step up to Torment, just so you feel I'm good. And then once you do, start off something easy with, say, going through old runes, see how the damage of the zombies and how quickly you kill the zombies on that road go, to give you an idea of, can I take this? Can I take an elite pack? And go on from there. And the Greater Rift system itself is also another great way to say, can I take on, when is a good time for me to go from, say, Torment 1 to Torment 2? Go into a Greater Rift, make yourself a 6 key, and then see how difficult it is for you going up to Greater Rift 12. If you can't get to 12, or you have too much difficulty getting to 12, then you're not ready for Torment 2. If you can get to 12 and you go on to 18, by all means, kick it to Torment 3 immediately. It's a very good system to gauge yourself and your abilities, because you have 6 levels of difficulty to go between each of the Torment steps.
I think it's 3.
Is it 3?
I thought
it was 6.
I do think it's 3. Because just if we're trying to remember, and I'm not positive, but I think it's like, 25 is the equivalent to T6, and it's like 22, 19, or 18, downward and so forth. But either way, the advice is sound in terms of using... that's why I really like the Greater Rift system early on, because basically what you're trying to do is break into Torment 1 to get that first key, and then you're doing your slow rolling. And who knows if this will be a thing by Season 4, just because of the removal of the trials and whatnot. But yeah, slow rolling it through, and then getting, like Nineball was saying, going up. And you can kind of tell when things start to slow down in the Greater Rifts, you're starting to reach your max. Then where you end from there, you can kind of bring back to going to Torment and be like, oh, so here's the equivalent level. And I really like to make sure I'm testing things in bounties before I go and jump into using up Rift Fragments, just because there are a bit of a limited resource early on if you're not running a ton of bounties in the first place. So, just going into regular adventure mode and trying Torment 3 and just killing stuff like Nineball's mentioning in the ruins, some zombies or things like that.
Mm-hmm. This one is a little bit outdated, but it looks like it's approximately Torment 1 is actually Greater Rift 8.
Huh.
But then 2 is 12, all the way up to 25 being 6.
So somewhere in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
Either way, feel it out. It's always good to just kind of gauge it as you, like Nineball was saying, feel comfortable. But yeah, I'm excited for you to try it out. Hardcore's fun.
Yep.
So I wanted to move into this next one because I felt really bad. He actually submitted it last week from Goliath, and it ended up in our junk mail.
Oh.
So I don't know why I had some time to kill yesterday, so I actually decided to just clean things up. I got rid of some folders and whatnot. I was like, what's in our junk mail? It's like, wow, this is a beautiful picture, and this is a nice story, and we missed this.
Yep.
So I'll go ahead and just kind of read this off because I told him I felt bad and I would give it a shout out this week. So he says he really likes the show, and he listens to it mostly while playing the game. You do a great job, so congrats. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. And he's submitting a Wormwood. He says it has a funny story behind it because he never really played a lot of the WD, and he was going to give it a try this season, and doing research wanted to play Jade. But for some reason, RNGesus decided that it was going to give him everything he needed for a pet build. Sound familiar, Nineball?
Dun dun dun.
Before he could even think about the Jade build, so he decided to leave Jade aside and start focusing on a Zuni build. He got stuck on Greater Rift 33, and then he had an idea. Let's mix it up. So he took 6-piece bonus on Zuni with the 2-piece bonus from Jade, and then he was able to do Greater Rift 32 and beat it with a lot of time to spare, and was like, hey, it's time. I'm going to upgrade to 37. So he was going to upgrade his key, and then he decided that he was going to do one more Greater Rift that day, which was the 37. It was super intense, he said, and a close call, but in the end he defeated the Guardian. Just a little bit of time to spare. And to his surprise, what dropped? The Wormwood. And some other legendary items as well. And not just any Wormwood, but an ancient Wormwood. And he said he had a Ramalani McDonald Happy Meal saved for such an occasion. So I love that that's like a thing now. That's great.
What have you done? This evil you have spread upon us.
Oh dear. So he used it and replaced the Vit with percent damage, and his goal is to get percent damage to a perfect 10. He's close, but he will get there eventually, and I'll throw it up on screen. 4,341 DPS Wormwood Ancient with 9% damage rerolled on there, so he is getting close.
How much?
9.
9?
A 9? And a bit of an upgrade over his Ancient Last Breath, just by a little bit.
Ever so slightly. Ever so slightly.
So, grats.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in chat. There you go, Goliath.
You know, I loved the Wormwood. When I was going and hunting down the lore books at the end of last season, I was doing it on normal, and I equipped the Wormwood and didn't care what the rest of my gear was because I would just walk by and everything would die. It was just like that's like one of those feelings of I have a truly powerful character, and it's just like everything just
dies in your presence. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Pretty sweet. Must have been how that monk felt with the Death's Bargain until boom ban. It looks like for our last couple ones we have some lore stuff, so if you want to handle those, I'm ready to listen and learn.
Sorry, was had myself on mute there. I
Uh,
was responding to a question in chat. Um, yeah, let me see. We've got Psycho going through, writing into us again from the Desolate Sands. Uh, I love it. You might no, you did watch the series and you stopped watching it. He's sitting here on my Night's Watch. Oops, wrong fantasy reference. And just finished the Sin War trilogy. It was fascinating to read about the references from the game in a more historical context. The Sin War trilogy takes place well before the events of any of the Diablo games. Again, respect to the follower of Rathma in the story. In line with all the other nerdverse I enjoy, this serves as a good reminder that extremes are good and bad, evil, right, and wrong, or that. Sorry, let me start over. Reminder that extremes are bad, and that good, evil, right, wrong, and light and dark are all independent concepts that don't always overlap how one would initially think. Can demons be good? Can angels be evil? I'd say that it's just as easy as the Sith telling the truth or a Jedi telling a lie. I know I can get pretty philosophical on everyone, but blame Philosophy Hour on Archon stream from a couple of years ago for that. That he is going to be starting on The Order and the Storm of Light, which, given how quickly he reads, he will probably finish both by next week, and I'll be looking forward to his opinions on both.
awesome.
Mhm.
I got most of the things there, so
Yeah.
pretty proud. Get
Yes.
some references. I really like I instantly thought of Buffy when he was talking about can demons be good, can angels be evil, and you get the
Especially,
whole
particularly Angel.
angel. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So you get the whole thing with him, like a vampire with a soul and whatnot, and it kind of just. I remember there are so many episodes where they harp on this whole leaping to judgment, like he's a vampire, like it's just black and white. You slay the vampires, but it's deeper than that.
Yeah.
Not to get too, like he mentions, not to get too philosophical.
Not to get too philosophical. This next one is from Landshark. Good hearing from her again. Let's see. Greetings from Well be with you, gentlemen. A Shakespearean sup fellows from Hamlet. Gotta use that English degree sometimes.
English degrees.
Yeah. Greetings from Landshark's Shark Tank over here. Sorry that it was a bit long, but I am writing two people's opinions in one message. Your recent discussion on the possible new zones and hell zones reminded me of a talk that I had with my fiance not long ago. He and I are fairly avid players these days, especially for Season 3. And as Season 3 has really kicked into high gear, we've been wrecking on our combination of the Wizard Hunter and Demon Hunter. Wizard Hunter, just the Wizard and Demon Hunter. We've had some thoughts of what might be coming next. You mentioned the hunt for Leah's soul and how big of an impact that might have on Act 6. But they had a different thought. Leah may or may not be a factor, but when Malthael died, the souls of the prime evils went back into the world, just like Adria predicted. Obviously, that's a big part of any incoming or upcoming story arcs, but we focus pretty hard on that little musing by Tyrael about whether or not the Nephilim would stay on the side of the light. My fiancé and I kind of differed on what should happen next, and I'll oppose them both. No matter what, the hunt for the evils will be a big problem. We do think that the foreshadowing of corruption was not for nothing, but we think the choice will be a big story aspect. He and I both think that there is an interesting opportunity for a questionable cause. Do you want to destroy evil and support the heavens, or do you want to allow evil to live and ward it off for the sake of balance? Or give in to it? Here's where we disagree. I think that there should be a diverging path in the story where you try to make a choice regarding killing the evils, where you either actively try to kill them or actively try to keep them alive for balance. Pick sides, essentially picking sides, but eventually circumstance pushes you towards a single ending, whether it be because the souls of evil cannot truly be destroyed, only contained, or because you realize that the dark side, or you come to realization of the dark side of your choices. And then the story wraps up, adventure mode stays the same. He thinks that there should be two possible endings, one where you fight and keep the evil subdued, the other where you allow them to live in the name of balance, essentially creating factions that could become a part of any future PvP beyond brawling, or going into another expansion or Diablo 4. When I raised the question of adventure mode or multiplayer, he had an idea for that too. Adventure mode gets lore, wherein it does not matter which side you're on, since your bounties and rifts are with the goal to gain personal power, so that way you can try and reach that goal regardless of your faction. Either way, we'd love to see Hell make an appearance, since we have the high heavens and whatnot, and we like to just go there regardless of lore. Also, you all made me want to play hardcore, and I now have two characters because I'm playing hardcore, and made my fiance play hardcore, so I made a character to keep up with his and one for myself.
Nice.
Yeah, some pretty interesting thoughts there. I guess, my thinking of it with like the evils and such. Obviously Diablo is going to be playing a big part in whatever this next chapter or final chapter of Diablo 3 is going to be. There's just some of the things that Brian Kindergan, who's the lead writer for Reaper of Souls, mentioned during the last year's anniversary stream. In it, he kind of alluded to the fact that they hadn't really made a decision at whether the prime evil escaped from the Black Soulstone when it was shattered into pieces or not. So that was one of those ones that was just kind of like, Diablo's not necessarily free. He could still be trapped within some of the fragmented pieces of the Black Soulstone. So that kind of opens up some possibility. There could be a race, to collect them before the forces of hell can, let them escape. But he did go through and say that most definitely that if he does escape, it is still the prime evil. It's no longer going to be the individual evils going and breaking apart, which does kind of also, in my mind, add in the interesting story aspect that you could be going and racing, or not so much racing, but upon the defeat of Diablo, it then gets broken into the constituent parts. You shatter the prime evil back into the prime evils and the lesser evils.
That could be interesting.
Yep. And kind of the redemption of Leah does kind of come down to, if this is like the final chapter in the story, we have no idea. It's just, StarCraft 2, they only did 2 expansions and they're wrapping up that story. I have no idea how much farther they're going to go with the Diablo 3 storyline, but if they are going to wrap it up, it definitely has to resolve Leah's storyline, and bring her back into the fold somehow.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So I guess it depends on Diablo 4 or nah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't really know how they would handle like different factions, the way that the game itself is set up, or like a branching storyline. Though that would definitely be a really interesting idea going into a Diablo 4 or something along those lines. Definitely, they don't really have an interest in making it a Diablo MMO, but maybe something more towards like kind of like Guild Wars, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like it's just like an open world, constant world action RPG type thing.
That'd be intriguing. But yeah, I think you would, if you're going to go that route, you definitely need a brand new game, just because I don't think the base could support something so different from what we have right now.
Yeah, that would be a lot of work.
Yeah. We'll see.
And then because you have so many different characters, how would you do it? I have a hardcore evil demon hunter and then like a softcore good wizard, and like kind of like further dividing the player base up from there. And then if you go into adventure mode and you all play together, then it's kind of like, well, what's the point of picking a side?
True.
Kind of undermines the choice.
Yeah. No, I couldn't. It would be very tough to integrate it into what we see.
Yeah. Not saying that it can't be done,
right.
But it's interesting choice. I just don't think that it would, kind of how they set up the narrative right now. I'm not sure how well it would work.
Mm-hmm. Curiouser and curiouser. We're getting there. We're getting closer.
Yeah,
one can hope. All right. Yeah. Well, from here, do we want to move on to some items of the week?
Let's do it.
We've got quite a few, so let's hop on over. And I will get everything I need set up right here to show off to you guys. Of course, we're going to start out with an ancient furnace.
We have to. We got to get...
I can't even say it with a straight face anymore. And we almost didn't even have one this week. This one came in the 11th hour. I think it was this morning it was actually submitted by Aculius. So thank you for saving us, because we always need one.
Yep, we will continue to show them as long as you send them. But if the chain is broken, then that's it. You're done. We'll never show another one ever again.
Ooh, I like that. I like that caveat.
Yep.
So it's up to you, the players and the listeners, to keep this going. It's terrible, awesome joke going. So this is an Ancient Furnace, of course. 4096.4 DPS. Rerolled for a 10% damage affix. 1388 strength. Cooldown reduction on 10%, which is perfect. Awesome. And then secondary, some extra experience for monster kills. And his legendary power is 45%, split in the middle of the possible range there. And a Ronald McDonald Happy Meal for a socket. I'm loving it.
I'm loving it.
And this one actually came with a question too, so it's nice to lead off with it, because he wants to know, is there a potential build for a barb which implements focus and restraint using Raycor's set? I was wondering about the synergy between the ring set and the stamina rune, a generator from Furious Charge. Let me know what you think. That's interesting. I hadn't really considered it, just because Raycor is so like passe at this point. It's like, oh, Raycor, so season 2/3/1, or I guess it can be. I guess we are season 3. Ronald Weasley. Now I love that the inside jokes are spilling over to the show now. Too much.
If you have no idea what we're talking about, if you're listening on iTunes, I'm sorry. But in the after show, we'll definitely link that video.
Yes. More reason to join us live. So yeah, I guess Raycor could be interesting. I mean, like, something I would want to test this with would be the build I was trying to make work during PTRs, the Rock and Roll Barbarian, because it was basically Raycor's using a bit of IK, and you would just basically build up Fury and then dump it out with Boulder Toss. So I could see, as long as Furious Charge is counting as a generator at that point, then the interplay would be to generate with Furious Charge, and then throw out the Boulder Breaker to do your spender, and you would be activating both sides of the focus and restraint. So could be a thing. Mm-hmm. But I think in that build, I think in that build I was using a furnace, but eventually probably use IK. So I don't know, Boulder Breaker. So things to consider. Next up, this one is also a question that we had for the show. It's an Ancient Calamity. And this one was submitted by Mikey. Not the Mikey that you think, though. Mikey from the UK. There are more Mikeys out there.
There are more Mikeys. You're not unique, Mikey. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
You've betrayed my trust. I thought you were the one.
The one true Mikey?
One true Mikey.
Not anymore. So we have an Ancient Calamity, 3063.2 DPS. Nothing re-rolled on here. And the question is about what needs to be re-rolled. So we have some base damage, 980 dex, 982 vitality, reduced cooldown of all skills by 7%, 9 max discipline on the secondary, and then of course enemies you hit become marked for death as the legendary power. And then to the email, he actually found 2 calamities, and both were ancient. I decided to only include this one because that's just ridiculous. But the other one was really good too, by the way. It's like almost 3700 DPS on that one. So he had thoughts on this in terms of what to re-roll, and he thought it would be good for the Nat set. So, Mr. DH Expert.
All right. For this one, it really comes down to how good is your Nat Slayer. You know, if this is what's going to be in your main hand, the offhand... sorry, let me just start over. The offhand crossbow that you use for the Nats build, the damage on it does not matter at all. It is a stat stick. You want to put the best damage crossbow that you have in your main hand, because that's the only one that matters for Strafe and Reign of Vengeance. So if this is better than your Nat Slayer, then you'd keep this in your main hand, and you would go through and roll vitality into damage percentage, just kind of looking at the numbers there. If your Nat Slayer is better than this one, reroll the reduced cooldown to 10%. since you don't need to increase the damage, you want to keep the dexterity, and then the vitality is nice to have, just as an extra stat stick there.
Makes sense to me.
Yep.
All right.
Pretty much, it's your whatever weapon that you have in your offhand is really there just to give you the reduced cooldown for skills. Some people also like having a little bit of the resource cost reduction.
Mm-hmm.
If you have enough resource cost reduction, you can, depending upon how you go through and play, if you keep using focus, pretty often while you're strafing. And if you get in a good rhythm of that, you can keep strafe going a very long time without ever having to hit prep. So the resource cost reduction isn't as important. Some people just like to leverage it a little bit. But for that, it really just comes down, if it's going to be your main hand, reroll for the damage. If it's going to be your offhand, get the reduced cooldown up to 10%, because that's your most important stat.
I dig it. And following up with that, we actually have another Calamity, Ancient Calamity, and this one was submitted by @Korova, who is one of the most stalwart podcast listeners. He writes in and communicates with the Shattered Soulstone quite a bit, and I'm glad to see him contributing over here as well too. He submitted this on Twitter, and like I mentioned, it's an Ancient Calamity, and it's kind of embodying exactly what Nineball was talking about just now. 2,873.6 DPS on this one. 840 dex. The reroll stat is CDR, and it's at 8% currently out of a max of 10. And then increase hatred regen by 1.45 per second. And then on the secondary, some life after each kill. And there's a Ronald McDonald's Ramalani on here for the socket.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an example of not leveraging for more DPS, but getting the CDR and keeping that calamity damage pretty low on here.
Yep. Yeah, and this also is another one of those that this could also still be used as your main hand. You would be farming to get a better weapon than that, but like the cooldown reduction is almost as important as like that 10% damage bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Even for your main hand, it's just the fact that the other one already had some CDR on it is why you would go through and add the 10% damage onto it. There's a lot of people are kind of, conflicted about that. Should I just, up the damage as high as I possibly can, or should I just go and, put cooldown reduction? Because cooldown reduction is just like insane for it. But yeah, this one definitely looks like it'd be better for your offhand.
There you go.
Yep.
And rounding out our suite of Demon Hunter items this week, we have an Ancient Windforce that was submitted by Crawlinth. And he died earlier this season, so he's in rebuilding mode currently, and he was pretty happy to receive this item.
Feel it there, brother.
Yeah. 3,420.3 DPS, and he's rerolling the base damage on here because it came with the perfect 10% damage affix already. 855 dexterity, 22,803 life per hit. It's got an empty socket in there, which looks like it was added via Ramalani's happiest meal of the day. And on the secondary, it's got some max discipline of 9 and that huge knockback percent chance, which is one of the main attributes of the Windforce. 46.2% chance to knock back on hit. And I was actually talking to Crawlinth about this because apparently there's another build for the UE set where you're actually utilizing Windforce in combination with strong arm bracers. Yeah, so instead of taking Reaper's Wraps, which is pretty commonplace, you mitigate your hatred regen a little bit better through the use of your generator and whatnot, and then you're just knocking everything back to get that bonus on strong arms.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been looking for Windforce to try this out, but sometimes you just get blessed with ancient Crider shots, so it is what it is, I'm sorry.
This, I wasn't going to mention it on the show, but this is what I have to put up with. Not only is it the taunting of the ancient Crider shot, but if you listen to the Shattered Soulstone, he had the audacity to say that Jar Jar was my favorite Star Wars character. This guy. Are you even my friend anymore? I don't know. Just tell me now.
Trolling you.
Are we still friends?
Trolling you from all the corners of the internet.
Yeah.
Friendship's still undecided. I don't know if I'll hit accept or not on this request. Oh boy. Let's move along then. Let's go to do some barb things. We've got more ancient boulder breakers coming in this week. This one was submitted by Michael. Thank you, Michael. It's an ancient IK boulder breaker, 4,371 DPS, 71.7. It came with some base damage that was really high, almost near the maximums, which is amazing. Rerolled the 10% damage affix on there, 1,269 strength, 54% increased damage from Call of the Ancients, and I believe that ranges 50 to 60%, or actually 45 to 60%, so a pretty high roll here. And then standard secondaries for the most part, 24 max fury, and ignores durability loss. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can actually get 5 affixes on this IK, so it looks like it might have came with the socket, and he rerolled something else off of here. So there you go. Not a shabby weapon at all. Super, super damage. And we'll move right along. We have next Wand of Woe. Oh yes, we have a suite of Wand of Woes. We have 2 that came in from 2 different listeners. They submitted them in the same week, and it's both of their first time finding Wands of Woe. So even though they're kind of out of the meta right now, I wanted to highlight these just because it's awesome that they both found their very first ones and were super stoked about it. And it just so happened to be like simultaneously. I think they sent the emails in each one day after the other. So pretty cool. This is from Ravenous, and it's his Wand of Woe. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And he rerolled the base damage on here. It's a 2,263.1, just regular Wand of Woe, not ancient. Rerolled base damage, 693 intelligence, 688 vit, 8% CDR, and the secondary is some life after each kill. And then Wand of Woe, for those who don't remember or are not familiar, has the legendary power where 3 additional explosive blasts are triggered after casting Explosive Blast. And there is a Ramalani's on here for our sockets. And we'll show the second one, which is an ancient one actually. So that's pretty cool. This one was submitted by Resikin, who's also in the BlizzPro clan, which is awesome. And this one is an ancient Wand of Woe, 2,972.2 DPS on here. He rerolled the 10% damage affix onto it, 920 intelligence, 9% CDR, and his secondary is 14 max arcane power. And of course, that same legendary power that we just discussed, and Ramalani's Happy Meal experience for a socket. So congrats to the both of you guys for obtaining your first Wands of Woe. May there be much woe in your lives going forward. And last but not least, in the wizard section, we have this ridiculously beautiful Ancient Serpent Sparker. This was submitted via Twitter from EYEdgar0111, also known as Alienationer.
Yep, another long-time listener of the show.
Absolutely. And he sent it in after hearing Nolan's cry for one last week, Monstrous. And a couple of tweets taunting him, basically, being like, hey, I heard you were looking for one of these. I just picked it up. And then he sent in the in progress, like a couple of screens of him re-rolling the damage on it. Like, it's getting better. So this is the final product. A 3,056.6 DPS Serpent Sparker. Rerolled the base damage because it came with a 9% damage affix. 897 intelligence, 966 vit, and a secondary of plus 13 maximum arcane power. And of course, the power of the Serpent Sparker is more Hydra because more. So you may have 1 extra Hydra active. And Ronald McDonald experience. Got the socket. That's all we got for items of the week. And that is all we got for our show.
Yeah, I think that about wraps it up.
Yes.
I just typed in chat there, but it's a nice time to go through and mention it. Is that if you have any items that you want to submit, please go through and email them to us at the Westmarch Workshop at BlizzPro.com. Not just items of the week, but feedback, stories, anything that you want to tell us. Please go through and shoot them in there. There is one question from the YouTube channel, which you did already answer. It just says someone asked what type of headset I'm using, and it is the SteelSeries, the official Diablo headset.
Awesome. Yeah, I wasn't completely sure. I was looking at past broadcasts and like pictures and trying to like get the angle. I'm like, is it? I think I see the glow.
Yeah, he goes through and does all of that when he could just text me what headset you're using.
Sometimes I use my brain.
Yep.
Sometimes I use my phone.
And sometimes you use your brain to go through and figure things out. So
yeah,
Yeah.
Brain power. I want it to be. Listen, I'm an independent Steve, and I don't need no help from no nine ball.
Uh huh. Yep.
Oh, but man, good stuff. What are we looking forward to in the coming days and weeks until we convene again?
Oh, well, looking to find out what the community buff is going to be, or what they even have planned for this Friday. It seems we don't even have like a developer interview or anything like that. I guess for the Reaper of Souls, right before the anniversary, they did the tavern talk, but now we don't really have much of anything.
No, no, unless it's going to be an 11th hour thing. Because one thing I was considering too was the player way. Last time that they had it was literally revealed the day before. It was the Wednesday for the next day of Thursday. Tomorrow is Thursday, so maybe for Friday we could get a little last minute reveal if they're trying to figure out logistics of who they can get.
Potentially. Although I figured that that we would have seen something by now if they were doing some stream of some nature.
Right.
They'd be promoting it before and not leaving it as a last minute reveal.
Right. I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for something, but time will tell. Other than that, man, I'm looking forward to doing some DH things. I'm really sold on this class. I think it might end up being the main that I push for the season. I mean, I do have my goals, but I do need to get to the Crusader at some point. I'm so slacking on my Crusader tech right now.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing good things about sweep attack, so I'm looking forward to hopping in because that was always one of my favorite skills. If you remember, actually, in Season 1, my very first build was a roll-in sweep attack, actually, and we were going through the Greater Rifts together because I was basically working myself as a support Crusader, in quotes, stunning everything with a trip attack and blinding things and whatnot, and then you were just doing the deeps in the back with the DH.
Yeah.
So who knew that we actually had the meta figured out for Season 3 way back when?
Very true, very true. And then Nevelistus is going through and pointing out in chat that their video studio is under construction.
Oh, that's right. She did say they were in a different room.
Yeah, so I guess that would kind of go through and say why we don't have any special streams or anything going on.
I cry tears.
Yeah.
But upgrades are always good, right? Because that's what we're always looking for in this game, and I guess you get them in real life sometimes too.
Yeah. So next time, next
anniversary, there will be more.
It's gonna be 10 times better.
That's right.
Brand new studio, which won't be new by then. But
it might be a year old by then, actually.
Yep.
But yeah,
hopefully they can show it off for the next Play Your Way.
I'd be excited to see that. I definitely would. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode. I guess we're gonna wrap, unless you have any last words. Oddment?
Still screw you for the Jar Jar comment?
Oh, I love you, you know that. And I love...
And there's certain things. Fair
enough. Next time, tune in to see if Nineball hasn't flown up to Boston to kill me. Episode 51. For now, you've been watching episode 50. What is it? 3 years of Diablo 3? Soon.
Soon.
Yes.
Not yet, but soon.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We always have a blast when you're here, and we miss you when you're gone. Tune in next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll be here, twitch.tv/Leviathan111. Get hyped for a possible Diablo 2 stream when the ladder goes up, or at least a few days right after it goes up. We will always be on Twitter. I'm SA Stewart111. My friend over there, who is still my friend, I promise, is Nineball Gamer on Twitter. You can also hit up the account, the WM Workshop. We hang out there and answer questions and look at items and get jelly. Come into Raid Call. We love it. We hang out there all the time. 644-6420. YouTube, SA Stewart, BlizzPro, iTunes, Stitcher, all the good stuff. Nineball, I hurt you.
I'm gonna steal your dog.